Every empire that collapsed, every billionaire who lost it all, every worker who died broke, ignored one law. It is not written in textbooks. It is not taught in school. It is whispered, hidden, buried under distractions. And here's the terrifying part. This law is deciding your future right now. Walson's law. It says if you put information and intelligence first at all times, money will always follow. Not sometimes, always. But here's the problem. Most people live backwards. They chase money first, intelligence last, and when you reverse the order, collapse is guaranteed. Think about it. Why do lottery winners go bankrupt? Why do six-figure earners drown in debt? Why do empires fall even with gold overflowing in their vaults? Because money without intelligence is sand. It slips through your fingers. In this video, I will show you how this hidden law works, why history's greatest builders obeyed it, and how you can use it to escape dependence and build real freedom. But here's the catch. If you click away halfway through, you will miss the one shift that flips the law in your favor. So watch till the very end, because this is not just another video. This is the law that decides whether money will chase you or abandon you. Every empire that collapsed ignored one law. Every dynasty that crumbled into dust forgot one truth. Every man who rose to power, only to die broke and bitter, missed one pattern. And that law is not written in any textbook. It is not carved into any stone tablet. It is whispered, hidden, buried under distractions. Walson's law. It says this: if you put information and intelligence first at all times, money will always find you. Not sometimes, not occasionally, always. But here's the tragedy. Most people reverse the order. They put money first and intelligence last. And when you do that, the money runs away. Think about it. Why do so many lottery winners end up broke within 5 years? Why do celebrities with million-dollar contracts file for bankruptcy? Why do some workers making $100,000 a year still live paycheck to paycheck? Because money without intelligence leaks away. Because wealth without wisdom is an illusion. Because abundance without clarity becomes poverty in disguise. Pause. Let's make this real. Imagine two people. The first earns $100,000 a year. On paper, society calls him successful. He drives a leased car, lives in a big house with a mortgage, eats out every night. He knows how to spend, but he has no idea how money flows, how markets work, how decisions compound. The moment the company fires him, everything collapses. Now imagine the second. She earns far less at the beginning. She studies, reads, questions, learns about wealth accumulation, understands the difference between accumulation and preservation, applies the 50-30-20 rule, 50% to needs, 30% to wants, 20% to investments. Over time, her money compounds. She grows, she expands, and when crisis comes, she survives. She thrives. One follows money, the other follows intelligence. One ends dependent, the other ends free. That is the problem of our age. We worship money like it is God. We bow to it, chase it, sacrifice relationships for it. And yet we refuse to understand its nature. It is like trying to tame a wild horse with no knowledge of horses. It will throw you off, trample you, leave you broken. Walson's law is the reminder. You must learn to ride the horse before chasing it across the field. But look around. How many do that? Workers chase overtime thinking it will make them rich. Entrepreneurs chase fast cash without building knowledge first. Politicians hoard wealth without foresight, and then history buries their names under failure. Let's go deeper. Every empire is a mirror of this same principle. Rome had gold, Rome had armies, but Rome lost its intelligence. Corruption, ignorance, short-term greed, they reversed Walson's law. They placed money and comfort above wisdom and foresight. The result? Collapse. The Ottoman Empire, once vast and wealthy, repeated the same mistake. Riches flowed in, but knowledge stagnated. Technology was ignored. Intelligence was suppressed. The law was violated. And when intelligence dies, money follows it to the grave. The pattern is endless. And yet here we are, in modern times, repeating the same cycle. Students drowning in debt because they bought the lie that a degree equals intelligence. Workers chasing salaries while ignoring financial education. Families competing in silent wars of comparison, bigger houses, flashier cars while their savings accounts starve. What does this mean? It means we are blind. It means the problem is not the lack of money. It is the lack of intelligence about money. And here is the cruel joke. Society trains you to worship wealth, but never to understand it. Think about school. 12 years memorizing facts, equations, dates. But how many hours learning about wealth accumulation? About compounding? About preservation? About how money actually moves through markets? Zero. That is not an accident. That is the system. A system designed to keep you chasing, never mastering. Karl Marx once said, "At one pole of society there is wealth accumulation. At the other, there is misery." He saw it clearly. Wealth without intelligence doesn't just disappear. It flows upward to the few who understand the law, to those who prioritize information, to those who treat intelligence as the foundation. Andrew Carnegie, one of the wealthiest industrialists of all time, believed the same. He said that wealth is a trust, a responsibility. He spent his life not just accumulating, but understanding how to use intelligence to direct it. He built libraries, universities, institutions because he knew that intelligence sustains wealth, while ignorance destroys it. Contrast that with the average worker. How many spend their lives saving blindly without strategy? How many confuse income with wealth? How many think that earning more will solve their problems, only to discover that expenses grow faster than salaries? Here is the truth most refuse to accept. Earning $100,000 a year does not make you wealthy. It makes you dependent, unless intelligence governs it. Do you feel the sting of that truth? Because if you are honest, you know it. You know people who look rich but are hollow inside. You know families who appear successful but collapse the moment a paycheck disappears. You may even know this feeling in yourself, working, striving, earning, but never feeling free. And that is the prison of ignoring Walson's law. Let's step back. What is the difference between wealth accumulation and wealth preservation? Accumulation is about growth, about adding, about building. Preservation is about protection, guarding, keeping what you built. Both are necessary. Both require intelligence. Without one, the other fails. Example: a man builds a fortune through business. He accumulates, but he never learns to preserve. He spends recklessly, trusts blindly, fails to protect his assets. One scandal, one lawsuit, one divorce, and it vanishes. He violated the law. Another man focuses only on preservation, saves every penny, hoards, refuses to invest. Over decades, inflation erodes his savings. His preservation without accumulation becomes poverty. He violated the law as well. Walson's law requires both: information, intelligence. The wisdom to know when to accumulate and when to preserve. Do you see the problem now? Most people live without this law. They are blind drivers on a dark road. They speed toward money, but without headlights of intelligence, they crash. That is why so many ask, which is the most powerful law in the world? Is it Murphy's Law, the law that anything that can go wrong will go wrong? Or is it Walson's law, the law that determines whether you will be free or enslaved by money? Think, which one governs your life right now? Are you following the crowd, chasing salaries, drowning in expenses? Or are you putting intelligence first, building knowledge, studying the flow of wealth so that money becomes a servant instead of a master? Because this is not theory. This is not abstract philosophy. This is the law that decides whether your children inherit freedom or chains. And the worst part? The system does not want you to know this. Banks profit when you borrow blindly. Corporations profit when you spend recklessly. Governments profit when you stay ignorant. Do you see it? The world rewards your ignorance. But Walson's law rewards your intelligence. This is the problem of our age. Not poverty, not lack of opportunity, but blindness. Misplaced worship. We place money on the throne and intelligence in the gutter, and as long as we do, we will suffer. That is why this law matters. That is why you must listen closely, because in the next moment, we will uncover the revelation what Walson's law really means for you, and how it transforms the way you see wealth, power, and freedom. But first, Ask yourself, if money disappeared tomorrow, would your intelligence still create it again? Or would you be left empty, exposed, broken? That question decides everything. And until you answer it, you will always be at risk. You have seen the problem. The world bows to money, but it ignores intelligence. And when intelligence is ignored, the empire always falls. So what is the revelation? What is this hidden law that separates those who rise from those who collapse? Walson's law. If you put information and intelligence first at all times, money will always follow. It sounds simple, too simple, almost like a trick, but the greatest truths always sound that way at first. Think about it. Murphy's Law tells us anything that can go wrong will go wrong. Parkinson's Law says that work expands to fill the time available. The Peter Principle says people rise to their level of incompetence. Each of these laws uncovers a truth about human life. They cut through illusions. They explain why chaos, inefficiency, and failure seem inevitable. And then there is Walson's Law, the counterweight, the balancing truth, the law that explains not how people fail, but how people rise. Let's break it down. Money is not a thing. It is a signal. It is not gold, not paper, not numbers in a bank. It is intelligence crystallized into value. Every dollar in your hand is proof that somewhere someone solved a problem. Steve Jobs put intelligence into design, and money followed. Carnegie put intelligence into steel, and money followed. Bezos put intelligence into logistics, and money followed. Do you see the pattern? Information first, intelligence first, money second. But society tells you the opposite. Chase the paycheck, chase the promotion, chase the quick win. And when you obey society, you violate the law. You reverse the order. And when you reverse the order, money slips through your fingers. Let's make this real. A man wins the lottery. Overnight, millions flood his account. But his habits remain the same. His understanding of value is zero. His intelligence about money is absent. Within 5 years, he is bankrupt. He broke the law. Money first, intelligence last. Result? Collapse. Now consider Andrew Carnegie. Born poor in Scotland. Worked in factories as a child. No wealth, no connections, nothing. But he had one obsession: knowledge. He borrowed books, studied, learned about industries, networks, capital. He built intelligence. And when opportunity came, money flooded toward him. Not by accident, by law. The lottery winner chased money and lost it. Carnegie chased intelligence, and money chased him. That is Walson's Law revealed. Here's another angle. Think of money as water. If you dig shallow wells, you find puddles that dry up quickly. That's the man chasing quick wins. If you study the land, understand the flow, and dig deep into the earth, you strike an aquifer. Endless water. That's the man who studies, learns, and places intelligence first. So let me ask you, are you digging shallow wells, or are you striking aquifers? Pause. Let's go back to the question people ask online. Which is the most powerful law in the world? Murphy's Law scares people, but Walson's Law transforms them. Because Murphy explains why things go wrong. Walson explains how to make things go right. And here's the twist most people never see. You don't obey this law by accident. You obey it by design. Let me give you some stories. In the workplace, 2 employees start on the same day. The first focuses on salary. He calculates every raise, every bonus. He complains when the company delays a promotion. He watches money like a hawk. The second focuses on knowledge. She studies processes, learns new tools, observes market trends. She invests in understanding, not just tasks. 5 years later, who is in charge? Who has freedom? Who is being chased by money, not chasing it? The one who obeyed Walson's Law. Another story. A small business owner launches a cafe. She pours money into fancy furniture, decorations, flashy menus. But she ignores data, ignores customer behavior, ignores market shifts. Within a year, the money bleeds out. Another cafe owner starts smaller, studies location trends, watches how customers flow through the space, listens, gathers intelligence. Slowly, intelligently, she scales. 5 years later, she dominates. Same industry, same product, different outcome. Why? One obeyed the law. One broke it. Now look at history. Napoleon rose through intelligence. He studied war like few men ever had. Strategy, logistics, human psychology. Money and resources flowed toward him because of his brilliance. But in time, arrogance blinded him. Intelligence turned into ego. He reversed the law. He chased glory instead of information. And Waterloo crushed him. Again, the same pattern. Information first, money and power follow. Money and power first, collapse follows. Let's connect this to something you know. Is $100,000 a year considered wealthy? Society says yes. The system says yes. But intelligence says no. Because what matters is not the number. It is what you do with it. It is how much you accumulate. It is how much you preserve. Here is the revelation. Money is not wealth. Intelligence is wealth. Money without intelligence is sand. It slips away. Intelligence without money? That is still wealth because given time, money will always arrive. Do you feel how radical this is? It flips the entire way society trains you to think. We are conditioned to ask, how can I make more money? But the real question is, how can I increase my intelligence? Because when intelligence grows, money has no choice but to follow. Now pause and imagine if you lived this way. Every book you read, every conversation you had, every skill you mastered, every observation you recorded, all of it building a fortress of intelligence. And that fortress pulling money toward it like gravity. Would you still panic about bills? Would you still worship salaries? Would you still envy those who flash wealth? Or would you laugh, knowing that their money is shallow, while your intelligence is an aquifer that will never dry up? This is the revelation. And it is not just about money. It is about life itself. Relationships, health, influence, power, everything flows to the one who puts intelligence first. A man who seeks love but ignores understanding ends in heartbreak. A leader who seeks power but ignores wisdom ends in tyranny. A society that seeks wealth but ignores knowledge ends in ruin. The law is universal. It governs not just money but everything. And here is the terrifying part. Most people will never obey it. They will keep chasing money, mistaking it for wealth. They will keep chasing comfort, mistaking it for freedom. They will keep chasing appearance, mistaking it for truth. And they will fail. Because they reversed the order. So let me ask you again. What are you putting first? Money or intelligence? Image or substance? Comfort or truth? Because if you are honest, you already know the answer. And if the answer is wrong, Walson's law will not spare you. But if you choose correctly, if you place intelligence before money, something remarkable happens. Money begins to chase you. Freedom begins to grow around you. Wealth begins to accumulate, not vanish. This is the revelation. The hidden law that history's greatest builders understood, and history's greatest failures ignored. And in the next section, we will see how this revelation transforms everything. From how you work, to how you save, to how you build a legacy that endures. But for now, remember this. The most powerful law in the world is not the one that predicts failure. It is the one that guarantees freedom, Walson's law. You know the problem. You've seen the revelation. But knowledge without application is just decoration. It hangs in your mind like art on a wall. Beautiful, but useless. Transformation happens when you live the law. Not once, not sometimes, at all times. Here is the promise of Walson's law. If you put information and intelligence first, money will always follow. Always. But how do you actually do that? Let's make this practical. 1. The shift from chasing to attracting. Most people live like beggars. They beg their employers for raises. They beg the market for good returns. They beg luck for a breakthrough. But here's the thing. When you beg, you chase. And when you chase, money runs faster. Transformation begins when you flip the script. Stop chasing. Start attracting. You attract money by putting intelligence first. Example. Look at Warren Buffett. He is not the fastest, the flashiest, or the most aggressive investor. He spends most of his time reading, thinking, gathering information. He invests only when his intelligence says the odds are stacked in his favor. He doesn't chase markets. Markets chase him. This is the essence of transformation. Money becomes gravity. It pulls toward intelligence. Now ask yourself, are you chasing or are you attracting? 2. The power of observation. Information is everywhere, but intelligence comes from how you observe. Most people scroll through social media. They drown in noise. They collect trivia, not truth. But the transformed mind watches differently. Think of Tesla's founder, Elon Musk. Whatever you think of him, his success is not about chasing money. It is about observation. He saw what others ignored, that electric cars were inevitable, that rockets could be reusable, that information itself was leverage. Intelligence first. Money followed. You can do the same in your own life. At work, don't just complete tasks. Observe the flow. What do your managers actually value? Where is the hidden bottleneck? What skills do most ignore that you could master? In relationships, don't just react, observe. What triggers conflict? What patterns repeat? What words unlock connection? In money, don't just spend. Observe. Where does your money leak? What unconscious habits drain you? What opportunities keep appearing around you, but you ignore because you are too distracted? Observation is the root of transformation, because when you see clearly, you act differently. 3. The discipline of learning. Transformation also demands learning, not the kind of learning schools force-feed you, not memorizing for tests, but chosen learning, strategic learning. Look at Andrew Carnegie again. As a child laborer, he had no money, but he borrowed books from a local man's library. He devoured them. He built intelligence brick by brick, and decades later, money flowed into his hands like a river. Contrast that with lottery winners. They win money without intelligence. They skip the learning, and the river dries up into desert. So, what about you? Do you read a book a week? Do you listen to lectures that stretch your thinking? Do you practice skills that compound over years? Or do you waste time scrolling, gossiping, numbing yourself with entertainment? Every hour you invest in learning is a brick in your fortress. Every distraction is a hole in your walls. Which one are you building? 4. The courage to apply. But learning alone is not enough. Transformation requires action, and action requires courage. Because intelligence without courage is paralysis. You know what to do, but you never move. You stay stuck. You sabotage yourself. Think of the countless people who attend seminars, read self-help books, binge motivational videos, but never apply. They are information rich and execution poor. They die with libraries in their heads and emptiness in their hands. Contrast them with Thomas Edison. He failed thousands of times trying to invent the light bulb, but each failure added intelligence. And because he kept applying, the failures became steps. Action transformed knowledge into wealth. Ask yourself, where have you delayed action because of fear? Where have you told yourself, I'll start later, while opportunities passed by? Transformation is not about waiting until you are ready. It is about moving with the intelligence you already have and building more as you go. 5. Wealth. As a system, not a number. Here's another critical shift. The average person sees wealth as a number, a salary, a bank balance. The transformed mind sees wealth as a system. What does that mean? Take the 50-30-20 rule. 50% for needs, 30% for wants, 20% for savings or investments. On the surface, it looks simple, but the intelligence behind it is profound. It trains you to separate accumulation from preservation. It forces you to build systems, not just chase numbers. Because here's the truth. Numbers lie. Systems don't. A man who earns $1 million but spends it all is poorer than the woman who earns $50,000 but saves and invests consistently. Why? Because the first has numbers, the second has a system, and systems obey Walson's law. Now ask yourself, do you have a system, or are you just chasing bigger numbers? 6. The battle of weakness versus power transformation also means confronting the war inside you. Weakness versus power, dependence versus freedom, illusion versus truth. Weakness says, chase money, because money is everything. Power says, chase intelligence because money is nothing without it. Weakness says, preserve your comfort, stay safe, don't risk learning. Power says, sacrifice comfort, expand, risk, build capacity. Weakness says, you'll never be wealthy because you don't have enough. Power says, wealth begins the moment you decide to master intelligence. This inner battle is constant, and here is the secret. Walson's law is not just about external wealth, it is about internal alignment. Every time you put intelligence before money, you strengthen your inner power. Every time you reverse it, you weaken yourself. So ask yourself, are you feeding weakness or power? 7. The workplace example. Let's bring this down to earth. Imagine two coworkers, same job, same pay, same opportunities. The first plays it safe. He shows up on time. He completes tasks. He collects his salary. He complains quietly about not being promoted. He thinks loyalty alone will be rewarded. The second does more. She studies the entire workflow. She notices inefficiencies. She learns how to use data tools her manager doesn't even understand. She starts to see the bigger picture. She applies intelligence, not just effort. 5 years later, where are they? The first is still stuck, maybe bitter, maybe laid off. The second is leading teams, making decisions, attracting money without chasing it. That is transformation. That is the law in action. 8. The historical example. Let's widen the scope. In the early 20th century, Henry Ford transformed the automobile industry, not by chasing profits, but by putting intelligence first. He studied assembly lines. He reduced costs through efficiency. He made cars affordable for ordinary people. Money followed not because he hunted it, but because he obeyed the law. Contrast this with countless car companies that chased money first, copying trends, cutting corners, ignoring efficiency. They collapsed. History barely remembers them. Ford's intelligence outlived his competitors' greed. That is transformation. 9. The personal example. Now let's make it personal. A young man decides he wants to be wealthy. He gets obsessed with crypto. He throws every dollar into coins he doesn't understand. At first, money pours in. He feels invincible, but he never studied, never built intelligence. When the crash comes, he loses it all. Another young man also decides he wants to be wealthy. He studies markets for a year before investing a dime. He learns risk management. He diversifies. He starts small. Over time, his portfolio grows steadily. No flash, no collapse, because he put intelligence before money. Two men. Same desire, different outcomes. Same law. 10. The core transformation. Here's the core. Transformation is not about changing what you want. Everyone wants money. Everyone wants wealth. Transformation is about changing the order. You put intelligence first, always. You put information first, always. You put wisdom first, always. And then money follows like a shadow that cannot escape the body. This shift changes everything. Your choices, your habits, your future. Because once you live by the law, you no longer fear money. You no longer envy those who flaunt it. You no longer panic when it disappears. Because you know money is not the source. Intelligence is the source. And as long as you guard the source, the flow will return. This is the transformation, the moment when you stop being a slave to wealth and become a master of it, the moment when you stop chasing and money starts chasing you, the moment when you step out of illusion and into truth. But the journey is not over, because transformation alone is not enough. You must also understand the battlefield of wealth and power. You must see how accumulation differs from preservation. You must see how systems of money operate across history, across politics, across your own life. And that is where we go next. Because Walson's law is not just about you, it is about nations, empires, civilizations. And if you don't learn this next part, you will repeat the same mistakes they did. Every empire that ever rose obeyed one half of Walson's law. Every empire that ever fell ignored the other half. Because here's the truth. Wealth is not just about accumulation. It is also about preservation. One builds, the other protects. Without both, collapse is inevitable. This is where most people fail. They think accumulating money is the goal. They work, they save, they invest, they grind. They measure success by how much they can pile up. But they ignore preservation. They ignore the leaks, the risks, the predators waiting to take what they built. Others go the opposite way. They preserve too much. They hoard. They fear risk. They keep money locked away in low-yield accounts while inflation erodes it silently. They cling so tightly that their wealth withers in their hands. Accumulation without preservation is arrogance. Preservation without accumulation is fear. Both are failure. Walson's law demands intelligence in both directions. Build and guard, expand and protect. Let's get practical. Wealth accumulation means building assets, stocks, businesses, investments, intellectual property, anything that increases in value or generates returns. Wealth preservation means keeping those assets safe, diversifying, protecting from inflation, guarding against lawsuits, taxes, corruption, betrayal. Think of it like a fortress. Accumulation is the bricks. Preservation is the walls and gates. Without bricks, there is nothing to guard. Without walls, the bricks are stolen overnight. Now ask yourself, are you only stacking bricks, or are you also building walls? One simple tool shows this principle clearly. The 50-30-20 rule. 50% of income goes to needs, 30% goes to wants, 20% goes to savings and investments. At first glance, this looks basic, but hidden inside is a deep truth. It forces you to accumulate by setting aside for investments, while also preserving by not overexposing yourself to risk. It balances growth and protection. This rule is not magic, but it trains the mind to obey the law, to always place intelligence before impulse, to always remember that money is not freedom unless it is structured, guarded, and multiplied intelligently. Now think about the average worker. No system, no structure. Expenses expand until savings vanish. Preservation is ignored. Accumulation is impossible. And at the end of a lifetime, they have nothing to show but debt. The law was violated, and the punishment was poverty. History gives us a sharp contrast here. Karl Marx, watching the Industrial Revolution, saw wealth piling up at one pole of society while misery grew at the other. He warned that accumulation without balance would create collapse, that capital concentrated in the hands of the few would destroy the many. His critique was not about money itself, but about intelligence or the lack of it in distribution and preservation of societal health. Andrew Carnegie, on the other hand, embodied accumulation. From factory worker to steel magnate, he mastered the art of building wealth. But unlike many industrialists, he also understood preservation not just of his own fortune, but of knowledge itself. He built libraries, universities, cultural institutions. His intelligence told him that wealth hoarded dies, but wealth invested in intelligence multiplies across generations. Marx saw the danger. Carnegie saw the opportunity. Both were right in different ways. Both reveal the power of Walson's law. Because what Marx feared, blind accumulation without preservation, is exactly what collapses empires. And what Carnegie built, intelligence embedded into wealth, is what sustains them. Now ask yourself, are you building like Carnegie or collapsing like the systems Marx condemned? Let's pull this into modern life. Is $100,000 a year considered wealthy? On paper, yes. By society's shallow standards, yes. But intelligence says otherwise. Because income is not wealth. Wealth is measured by time and freedom. If you lose your job tomorrow, how many months can you survive without panic? That is wealth. A man earning $100,000 but spending $95,000 is poorer than a woman earning $60,000 but saving and investing $20,000. Because when crisis comes, the man has nothing. The woman has preserved her fortress. This is where most people fall into traps. They confuse cash flow with wealth. They confuse salary with freedom. They confuse lifestyle with power. And then they wake up one day at 50, 60, 70 years old with nothing preserved. Do you see the trap now? Let's list some of the predators that eat wealth when preservation is ignored. Lifestyle inflation. Every raise swallowed by bigger houses, newer cars, fancier vacations. Income grows, but savings flatline. Debt slavery, credit cards, loans, mortgages. Interest eats accumulation faster than you can build it. Consumerism, endless chasing of wants disguised as needs. Phones, fashion, gadgets, all depreciating, none preserving. Ignorance of inflation keeping savings in cash or low-yield accounts, while the value erodes silently year by year. blind trust, handing money to others without understanding, scams, failed partnerships, reckless speculation. Every one of these traps violates Walson's law, because each puts money first, intelligence last. This pattern is not just personal, it plays out on national scales. Venezuela, once one of the wealthiest nations in South America, drowned in oil money. But instead of preserving wealth through diversification and infrastructure, leaders chased easy accumulation. When oil prices collapsed, so did the nation. Money first, intelligence last. Collapse followed. Contrast that with nations like Singapore. Lacking natural resources, they invested heavily in education, infrastructure, and global trade intelligence. They preserved every ounce of accumulation by embedding it in systems of knowledge. Today they are wealthy far beyond their size. Intelligence first, money followed. Preservation secured it. Which nation do you live like? Venezuela, reckless with short-term gain? Or Singapore, deliberate with long-term preservation? But let's get deeper. Preservation is not just strategy, it is psychology. Why do people fail to preserve wealth? Because preservation feels boring. It feels slow. It requires restraint, patience, discipline. The human brain craves excitement, novelty, dopamine. That's why gambling and speculation seduce so many. That's why crypto booms attract blind money. Accumulation excites, preservation bores. But intelligence says preservation is where real power hides. Because the man who preserves survives every storm. And the one who survives every storm eventually inherits everything. Fear and greed. These are the twin enemies of preservation. Greed drives reckless accumulation. Fear drives paralysis. Both violate the law. Greed says, invest in everything, chase every hot trend, double down without thinking. Fear says, save everything, hide it under the mattress, never risk a penny. Intelligence cuts through both. It says, balance, study, build systems that preserve while you accumulate, and accumulate while you preserve. That is why the 50-30-20 rule works. That is why diversified portfolios work. That is why generational wealth lasts when built on intelligence. Here's the deeper revelation. Wealth is not just money. Wealth is legacy. The man who accumulates but fails to preserve leaves nothing for his children. The empire collapses with him. The man who preserves without accumulation leaves only stagnation. His children inherit fear, not power. But the one who obeys the law leaves a fortress, a legacy, a system of wealth rooted in intelligence. His children inherit not just money, but the knowledge of how to multiply it. Think of the Rothschild family. For generations, they embedded intelligence into preservation. Banks, networks, knowledge. Their wealth endured for centuries because it was preserved, not just accumulated. Now contrast them with families who win fortunes overnight through business booms, celebrity careers, or sudden inheritance. Within 1 or 2 generations, it vanishes. Why? No preservation, no intelligence, only chasing. Which story will your bloodline tell? Now we stand at the edge of the battlefield. Wealth versus poverty, accumulation versus collapse, intelligence versus ignorance. Ask yourself, are you only chasing income, or are you building systems of accumulation? Are you only stacking bricks, or are you building walls? Are you hoarding out of fear, or are you multiplying with intelligence? Because history is clear. Empires collapse when they ignore preservation. Dynasties vanish when they worship accumulation alone. Individuals fall when they confuse income for wealth. But those who obey the law, those who place intelligence first in both accumulation and preservation, they rise. They endure. They dominate. This is the battlefield of wealth and power, and it is where your future is decided. In the next section, we end with fire, the call to action, the command that separates those who nod and move on from those who transform their destiny. Because Walson's law is not just a truth to know, it is a truth to live. You have seen the problem. You have heard the revelation. You have felt the transformation. You have walked through the battlefield of wealth and power. Now you stand at the edge. And there is only one question left. Will you live by Walson's law, or will you break it? Because here's the truth. Most people will hear these words and do nothing. They will nod. They will agree. They will feel the fire for a moment. And then they will return to old habits. Back to chasing money. Back to worshiping numbers. Back to ignoring intelligence. And when they do, the law will punish them. Quietly, brutally, without mercy. Years will pass. Their bank accounts will rise and fall. Their jobs will come and go. Their lifestyles will flash for a moment and then fade. And when they look back, they will realize they lived, but they never lived free. Do not be one of them, because this law is not optional. It governs you whether you believe it or not. Just like gravity pulls every stone to the earth. Just like Murphy's law drags every plan into chaos. Walson's law rules every fortune, every empire, every life. If you put intelligence first, money will follow. If you put money first, collapse will follow. There is no middle ground. The illusion says money is the prize. The truth says intelligence is the prize, and money is the shadow. The illusion says work harder, chase faster, grind longer. The truth says work smarter, learn deeper, observe sharper. The illusion says wealth is a number. The truth says wealth is freedom. You know this already. You feel it. You've seen people with high incomes who are prisoners of their own lifestyles, and you've seen people with modest incomes who walk with peace because their intelligence created systems of preservation. So the choice is in front of you. Will you keep living in illusion, or will you walk into truth? Here is how you obey Walson's law in the smallest details of life. When you wake up, don't just scroll. Read, learn, train your mind before you feed your body. When you spend, don't just swipe. Ask, does this build my fortress or weaken it? When you work, don't just execute. Observe. Where is the hidden leverage? What intelligence can I build today that compounds for years? When you invest, don't just gamble. Study. Understand. Build knowledge that protects and multiplies. Do this daily. Small shifts, simple acts. But with time, they create a gravitational field around you. And in that field, money cannot help but flow toward you. But this is bigger than you. It is about legacy. What will your children inherit? Will they inherit fear, debt, and ignorance, the chains of those who chased money without intelligence? Or will they inherit systems, wisdom, and freedom, the fortress of those who placed intelligence first? Carnegie built libraries so generations could inherit intelligence. The Rothschilds built banking networks so their children could inherit preservation. Others built nothing and their names were forgotten. Which story will your bloodline tell? Because every decision you make today is not just about you. It is about the generations who will carry your name. And they will either curse you for your blindness or thank you for your intelligence. Let's not pretend this will be easy. Every day you will feel the pull of illusion. Every day weakness will whisper, chase money, it is faster. But every day power will whisper louder. Build intelligence, it is eternal. This is the war inside you. And every choice you make feeds one side or the other. You cannot serve both. When you choose money first, you become a slave. When you choose intelligence first, you become free. Which side are you feeding? Think of yourself as an empire. Your mind is the capital. Your wealth is the provinces. If you expand provinces but neglect the capital, rebellion will destroy you. If you guard the capital but refuse to expand, stagnation will weaken you. Only when the capital is strong and the provinces are balanced does the empire endure. That is you. Your mind must be fortified with intelligence. Your wealth must be balanced with both accumulation and preservation. Do this, and your empire will not just survive, it will expand across generations. Ignore this, and your empire will collapse like Rome, like the Ottomans, like every dynasty that worshipped money and forgot intelligence. So here is the command. Stop chasing. Start building. Stop worshiping money. Start worshiping intelligence. Stop measuring wealth by numbers. Start measuring wealth by freedom. Every book you open, every skill you sharpen, every observation you record, every system you build. These are not just habits. They are bricks in your fortress. They are soldiers in your empire. They are the evidence that you are living by the law. And when the storms come, and they will come, you will not panic. Because you will know. Money may vanish for a season, but intelligence remains. and intelligence always recreates wealth. This is your call to action. Do not waste it. Do not ignore it. Do not nod and move on. Decide now. Live by the law. Make intelligence your foundation. And watch as money bends toward you, as freedom grows around you, as your empire stands unshaken. This is Walson's law, the most powerful law in the world, the law that decides whether you will live as a slave to money or as a master of it. The choice is yours. So here is where it all comes together. You now know the law that every fallen empire ignored. You now know why the rich collapse, why workers stay trapped, why nations rise and crumble, and you know the one choice that changes everything: money or intelligence, illusion or truth, dependence or freedom. This is not just theory, it is your life. Because the moment you put intelligence first, money cannot escape you. It will follow you like a shadow. It will chase you like gravity. But if you keep chasing money without wisdom, it will betray you. It always does. So ask yourself right now, which path are you walking? The path of those who collapse or the path of those who endure? Because if you live by Walson's law, you will not just earn more. You will build a fortress. You will build freedom. You will build a legacy that outlives you. This video is not entertainment. It is a mirror. It is a reminder that your empire begins in the mind. And if you guard that empire with intelligence, nothing can take it from you. So do not just watch. Decide. Decide to live this law. Decide to let intelligence lead and money follow. Decide to rise where others collapse. Because the moment you do, your life will never be the same again.